Back a few months ago when Blaze and HyperMegaTech put out their Super Pockets, I definitely had to pick one up. I grabbed that Taito Super Pocket and I reviewed it right here on the channel. And then I saw they were going to release an Atari version of that. And I'm like, I don't need that because I kind of already have the Super Pocket. It's just the same thing with different games. And then they said, yeah, but what if it was a woodgrain limited edition? All right, you got me, Blaze.
If you're a Gen X grown-up, this YouTube channel is just the beginning. Go beyond gaming with a casual and humorous take on movies, music, TV, tech, pop culture, and more. Hear the weekly Gen X Grown Up podcast anywhere you like to listen or visit genxgrownup.com/pod.
Hey there, welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I'm John, and I am a Gen X Grown Up. Thank you for taking the time to check out this video. So yeah, I saw the announcement of this little Atari Super Pocket. Now, this is a limited edition because it has the wood grain design. You can still get these, but the limited edition might be harder to come by. I think they run about 60 bucks or so. They're very reasonable, but this was a limited 2600 run of this Atari Super Pocket. And what I liked most about it was that it wasn't the same games again we've seen over and over. Yes, Yar's Revenge and Adventure and Missile Command and stuff are on there, but there are some other titles from other platforms, including the 5200 and arcade games, and some stuff that we saw from those recent Atari acquisitions finally making their way into a consumer product. It's about time. Let's go take a look. The bundle I opted for included not only the Super Pocket, but also a dedicated Super Pocket zipper bag, which I'll look at. And in fact, I'm sure Blaze would have been more than happy to send me one of these for review, but probably not the limited edition one. So I went ahead and plunked down my money for it as soon as I saw that they were available for pre-order, because the wood grain is part of the appeal. It's the Atari-ness of this little Super Pocket that made me want it in the first place. So the more Atari it can be, like having this wood grain and the orange buttons on the back, for example, we'll look at in a second, the more I wanted it. So I really wanted to have one of the limited edition. But both this and the standard edition, and you can see on the back, come preloaded with 50 Atari classics. And not just Atari 2600 games, as you might think, but also we have arcade games, 5200 games, 7800 games, and Lynx games included on there. And you can see some of those with the screenshots. And of course, right down here, limited to 2,600 units. Although I think now it's 2,650. There's 50 extra ones out there that you can win a contest and get a free cartridge, whatever. The point is, cleverly limited to 2,600 almost units in this cool wood grain. So what do you say we get this one open and take a closer look? Once inside, of course, we have the Super Pocket itself. Already love the looks of this thing. And just one little flyer that is both kind of an ad and also a little quick start guide, which, I mean, that's basically instructions, and you know what we do with instructions. Let's move on then with a quick tour of the hardware. So we have a nice big IPS screen. I think it's like a 2.8 inch, as I recall. Same specs as the Taito Super Pocket that I reviewed not too long ago. Link up there in the corner if you want to see that. Just below the screen, we have the controls, which are the same. You have a nice circular D-pad with a raised plus on there, raised cross. You have a menu button here, A, B, X, Y. These buttons have a nice throw to them. They're not particularly clicky, but they are satisfying. You have a single forward firing speaker here set between the select and start button, and a little Atari logo down here. And before we move on, I just have to take a second to appreciate how nice this looks with the wood grain. This was the reason I picked this one up, frankly. It's just, look, I had the Taito Super Pocket, but just the looks of this told me, yeah, it probably needs to be in your collection, John. So let's flip it over then. And here on the back, we have 4 more buttons, effectively shoulder buttons, L1, L2, R1, R2, and a volume up and down rocker. But the fact that they went with this bright orange on black, just like the front screams the console, the 2600 console, the back screams the CX10 or the CX40 joystick with the black and the bright orange for the button there, which I very much appreciate. Little vent hole here. And keep in mind, the Super Pocket is just like the rest of the Evercade line, expandable. So this is a cartridge slot. You can pull out, this is a dummy, you can pull out this, there's actually a barcode on there where to go and buy more games, and replace it with an expansion of more games or game or whatever that you have purchased. Plug it in there and you can play that here in addition to the 50 games that come preloaded on the Super Pocket. And then finally here on the bottom you have a headphone jack, power on-off switch, some charging indicator LEDs, and then finally a USB-C charging port because this thing has an internal battery that you can charge. You must provide your own cable though. So now that we've established that it does in fact look great and brings over the same design as the previous Super Pockets, time to power this thing on and take a look at the included software. Blaze Entertainment and HyperMegaTech brings us this little Atari Super Pocket. Now it lands us right here on the game select screen right off the bat. Now you can navigate through these with the D-pad or you can use the R2, L2 to move quickly through them. And what you'll notice is the menu is pretty straightforward. There's not any sorting or favoriting or anything. And there's a little tag on the corner to tell you what platform you're looking at. 2600, 7800, arcade, even Lynx, and 5200 is in here, which effectively, Atari 8-bit, you know that. So let's look at the other menu options. So you drop in here, you can come down to this Pocket's games, the Evercade cartridge that you have plugged in, though we just have the blank right now, and then settings. So let's tweak some settings. So in display, you can adjust ratio, full screen, or pixel perfect. Shaders, do you want any kind of scan lines or anything? Photosensitivity warning, I have turned off. All that can be done in here. Sound, I'm going to bring down this menu volume so it's not quite so loud while we're talking. A master volume just follows the rocker that's on the side here. Language just lets you pick the language. There's actually a wizard that goes through when you first start it up. You can set games, I'm guessing dip switch wise. You don't see the dip switches, but you can set it in easy mode for some games that allow it. And then all the credits and legal are in there. All right, so let's back out of here. And back up to Atari. Now the presentation is quite nice. You drop into a game, it fires up right away. Yeah, and once you're in it, so it's a 2600 game, so game select is the select button here. And of course, once you pick game 3, you hit start, and you're in the game. And from here, you can also go in and adjust things like, do I want to have scan lines on here or not? You can do that. In addition, you have game saves here, save states. So once I'm in a game, I can drop in here and say save and pick a slot. You have 6 slots per game. There you go. And then no matter what else you do, you can always come back to that spot in the game and load it up, and you're right back where it left you off. There, a dragon goddess. Now, the interesting thing here is that this is not just Atari classics. Well, I mean, there are Atari classics here. Yar's Revenge, Adventure, of course, things like Asteroids and Missile Commander here. But we start to see some of the recent Atari acquisitions that had not seen the light of day before. So Berserk has started to work its way out. Plus, I think Frenzy is in here. Yeah, there's Frenzy. Let's take a look at Frenzy real quick while we're here. And then we'll get back to talking about the library, which is quite interesting. But still says Stern, which I appreciate. Yep. Now, during a game, you can also drop in and look at the controls. So this one's pretty obvious. D-pad to move the man. B is my fire button, so that's fine. And of course, if I want to save here, I can easily do that. Just drop in, pick a slot, and then when I go into load, you can see it's there. So let's drop out, then look at the rest of the titles here. The games play great, sound great. That forward-firing speaker, really nice. Gravatar, Haunted House, 2600 favorite. Now, Liberator, by the way, great arcade game that a lot of people haven't seen. It's like a mashup of Missile Command and Outer Space. Anyway, you'd have to try it and see it. Let's try it and see it, actually, since I'm talking about it. Look at this. It's really interesting. Put in a coin. Then we're going to start it up. Now, you'll see it is very much Missile Command-y in that I have these 4 turrets all the way around the screen, and I can fire a bullet that hopefully they will run into, like a, kind of the mushroom cloud for Missile Command. There we go. And then we go to the planet surface, and the missiles are launched from the planet, coming up to try to shoot my my turrets. So I need to kind of protect them. Nope, there's one coming up here. Get it. There we go. There's one shooting more. Get that one. Oh, no, 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 no. So you can see the Missile Command inspiration there. Oh, got one of my turrets. Whoa, not another one. There's 2 down. I lost all 4 of my turrets. Game over. I'm not great at it, am I? But heck, I put in my initials, and the initials, I believe, actually persist. So I'll throw a little GXG on there. Now I've played this game already. Yep, and there's my previous entry. And this has been completely powered down since then. Moving on from Liberator, look at this. Lost Tomb. What's Lost Tomb, you ask? That is an arcade game that was acquired in the Stern acquisition to get Berserk and Frenzy. Lost Tomb is that kind of adventure running through the layers of a tomb game that was not Atari's, but it was one of those. This has not seen the light of day anywhere that I'm aware of since Atari acquired it. And now, this great old arcade classic that I remember playing in my local Barrel of Fun, it's here. So I think this is like a dual stick shooter kind of thing. So the direction you do on the fire buttons or the direction you shoot, up, right, left, down, kind of like Vanguard a little bit. So as I shoot the bad guys, I'm trying to get to the chests that are down here and open those up. There we go. There's treasure chests. Yeah, just collecting the treasure. And the great thing is, unlike the arcade game, you have infinite continues. Well, I mean, you always had infinite continues, but now you don't have to pay for them. And you can go back and work your way through this big adventure that Lost Tomb has to offer in your hand, which is pretty handy. And great to see Atari finally doing something with these other games they picked up that otherwise were just dying on the vine. And flipping along through there, you'll see some more. Now, for my money, Miner 2049er and Bounty Bob Strikes Back being on this thing, just to be able to play those games in my pocket, I love these games. Played it mostly on my Atari 8-bit, but I have some save spots in here. We can load it up. There we go. You're on level 5. I'm halfway through. Now, another thing I really appreciate about what Blaze has done with these Super Pockets is, you might know, Miner 2049er used a lot of keyboard commands, or in the 5200 in this case, the numpad. So they've mapped all of that. If you come down to controls, they've thought of all the little specialty things. Oh, when you get to the station where you need to turn the lift on and off, station 8, it's the Y button. What about when you, toggle the on-screen numpad with the R1? You can do all that. So check this out. I have the R1 I can hit, and it brings up the numpad that would have been on the 5200 that I can hit when I need to. And that's needed in several places. All those buttons that are specific to the console, specific to this game on the console, they're handled. And if you're not sure how they're handled, they're right there. You can pop up a menu and see. So whether it's Y, station 8, or whether you need to pop open this little dialogue for the numpad that includes pound and star if you needed it here, they've thought their way through this 5200 emulator and how they've implemented this sort of game that has special controls. Now, something similar was done here on Missile Command. If you pop into the controls and look, the arcade Missile Command, you had 3 different turrets to shoot from. So yeah, you can shoot from Delta Base, Omega Base, or Alpha Base, depending on which button you press. And sure enough, so you could do fire from that left one, the center one, and the right one. You have an independent control for those, and you don't have to memorize them, right? You could just pop open that at any time. They've thought through the controls for each of these games and curated it in such a way that it's not just a bunch of ROMs loaded onto a console. It's like a little platform that has thought its way through, how to play these games and what's going to be required, which I very much appreciate. Pop across here a couple more. Night Driver, of course, the arcade, Ninja Golf, some Pong in there. And I got to show you Save Mary, that old unreleased game that's now released. And Dark Cavern from the M Network acquisition. Another title that I think it's made its way to the VCS store, but so now you've got it in this little handheld. Wonderful. Just, these acquisitions that Atari's been making, they have not done a lot with them so far, so seeing them start to show up in consoles like that, it makes me hopeful for future compilations, because now we don't have just the same 5 games over and over. Missile Command, Yars, Centipede, Missile Command, Yars, Centipede. I mean, they're great, but there's so much more out there, and now we're starting to see them hit little handhelds and third-party devices like this, which bodes really well for the Atari market. So as you can see, I would put this on par with the Taito Super Pocket that came out, was it earlier in the year or last year? It's the same kind of device. It's the same functionality. It feels the same. To my hands and my eyes and my ears, nothing's really been modified other than the aesthetics. I did run into an odd problem with the Atari Super Pocket, though, that I'm confident could be fixed with firmware, and likely it probably is on its way to being fixed, but I wanted to show you it was something interesting. So when you go in the menu, and you can come down to the Evercade cartridge. So let's plug my Evercade cartridge in. I have my Atari Lynx collection too, so let's plug that in. Launch the Evercade. There we go. And we can play these games just fine. So let's launch one just to show you. There's California Games, just as it should be. That's what we want. However, when a cartridge is inserted, if I drop back to the standard games that are included on this Atari Super Pocket, look at that. The games won't launch. Now, I know I'm not huge into the Evercade ecosystem, but I do know that cartridges themselves can be updated somewhat. So as long as you have a cartridge loaded, I tried with a couple of different cartridges, I can't play the preloaded games. I've got to pull that cartridge. And then fires up like a charm, right? It's a bit of an oversight, to say the least, for to have something ship without functioning with expansion cartridges, or to have the expansion cartridges hobble the pre-installed games. It's disappointing for this one. Look, I don't want to hold it against the entire device or against Blaze Evercade. It's unfortunate, as I said, but I'm sure they can patch it in an updated firmware, though it's a bit of a bummer because now I can't just leave my Atari Lynx cartridge plugged in. I've got to take it out and plug it in, depending on what I want to play. It's a little inconvenient, and I know it's not by design because that's not the way the Taito worked. And before I wrap this up, I do want to quickly share with you this really nice carrying case. It's double zippered, so on one side, there's a place to put your cartridges. Again, 4 or maybe 6 in there you could fit without too much bulge. And then the other side is just a nice, padded, smooth little place to put your Super Pocket. Zip it up, and you're good to go. Now, of course, if this little gadget looks like it might be for you, link down in the description where you can go and purchase one right now. Now, again, the limited edition might be harder to come by, but whether you seek one of these out or get the standard edition, that's the red and black, it's an eye grabber. I mean, I took this thing out for the first time with me in public. I was going to the movies and I took it out, and the first thing somebody said was, ooh, because it really does show well. It plays well, and the games on it are a good selection, as we saw, and the ability to save your games and have all these instructions and controls all pre-built for you. It's really handy. Could you emulate these on your phone? Yeah, probably, but this is a really nice package with really nice controls that I think, if you're a fan of these games, you're probably going to enjoy. And don't forget, it's all part of the Evercade ecosystem. Plug your cartridges in once that little glitch gets fixed and play most anything that you want on the platform. All right, hey, I'm gonna throw some links over my shoulders here and here to some other videos I've published recently. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.